Hey there, dear viewers. I had a bit of a theory on some ESF play that I wanted to try and put into action. I played this theory a little bit with Silios yesterday, but I don't know, it just wasn't feeling PlanetSide 2 yesterday. And I'm kind of still not really feeling it today, but this is something that I wanted to try out. I think it can still work, so I'm just going to go ahead and give it a shot. My theory is that now, since everybody is running, including myself, since everybody is running fire suppression and not flares, the old air-to-air missile pods are going to do a very good job in the air, even though most people are using the Coyotes. They're using the Hound missiles. I call them Hounds because back in the day there was a Top Gun game for the 8-bit NES, the Nintendo. And in that game, I think the first missiles that you were really going to use were Hound missiles, and that sounded cool, so I kind of call these Hounds because, they're Coyotes, dogs, Hounds. So anyway, those people are using the Hounds, and so if they're going air-to-air, they're going to be running Hounds and fire suppression. And most ESFs are going to be running fire suppression anyway, so my theory is that the old air-to-air missile pods are going to do really well, because you can lock on from range, stay at range, and just continue to fire air-to-air missile pods at your targets. And then if they get too close, you can just get away, pull back behind friendly forces and such. And even if they do get close, I like to load up the air hammer, the M30 Mustang air hammer, because this is really good air-to-air if you're good with it. And it also serves as a backup weapon that you can use if there are no aerial targets. You can swoop down and pick off infantry, or even get some really good shots off on ground targets, especially the lighter armored ones like harassers and such. So that's my theory with this. Let's hope that this works, because we're not getting a lot of aerial resources right now. The TR are pushing really hard against us at this particular point, and I'm just going to see if this works. So let's spawn this and see how it goes. Now, yeah, my feats are down, so we're going to land real quick to get the feats to pop up. Turn on my Luma fiber, and up we go. Yeah, feats are good. I've already got a waypoint set. I'm going to head out there. I'm going to head high. Now, these air-to-air missile pods aren't the most kitted out. If this theory does prove to have some backing, some foundation, if it does seem that it's something that might work, I'll go ahead and kit these out and just start flying this setup for a while, because it seems like a good idea. Now, the point of this setup is to stay at range. Normally, when you're dogfighting or going after aerial targets, you like to get in close. You'd like to make sure you've got a good chance of hitting the target and getting the first hit on your target, sneaking up on them after burning and such, and making sure to get that alpha strike with your rotary cannon. Okay, I'm going to be flying over some TR forces here, keeping an eye on the skies, trying to stay above the point where enemy flak can fire at me reliably, keep myself safe in that manner. There's a lot going on the ground, but I am an anti-air spec. There's a target. Let's see what we can do. Man, I need longer lock-on range for this. Alright, so he's turning on me, and there's that flak. So I'm going to afterburn back toward friendlies. And I can hear the Dalton firing on me. And on my way back, fire at those lightnings on the ground. Alright, so ideally my target won't be a Liberator. Liberators are really tanky. If you're going to run this particular strategy, you're going to want at least 3 ESFs, in my opinion. 2 didn't seem to cut it against Liberators. And that's fine. Liberators are aircraft designed for 3 people. They should be difficult to take out with ESFs. You should need 3 people to take out a Liberator. So I think a lot of the changes that they made to Liberators recently are very good. I really like how the air game plays out now for the most part. Alright, so my auto repair has brought me back to the point where I can head back into the fight. Even if I can't take out that Liberator, I can still harass it and make sure it can't do its job. Alright, so there is an ESF. Looks like it wants to pull back. Here we go. No flares on it. I got a hit with the lock-on. I'm getting locked from ground. I'm going to afterburn up here. Pop my fire suppression. There goes that skeeter. So here's the thing when it comes to the whole wanting to run fire suppression in an ESF bit. If you're running fire suppression, really the only way to deal with lock-ons is... Okay, there are multiple ways, but the most reliable way and the most common way, what's going to happen most often, is that you're just going to take the hit and then fire suppression afterward, so that you can recoup that loss. It's kind of a reactive way of using flares. Instead of stopping the hit from coming, you just heal the damage that it does. And sometimes, the most defensive way... Now, that's what you're usually going to do in reaction to a lock-on. But if you're trying to avoid taking the hit, all you can really do is fly away from the lock-on. So whenever you get locked from ground and you're running fire suppression instead of flares, you typically just turn around and then afterburn away. And that generally gets you out of danger because, you know, lock-ons from the ground have things to worry about, like buildings getting in the way of their line of sight, or trees, or, you know, the walls of mountains and ridges and things like that. So, you know, you can fly away from ground lock-ons fairly reliably as well. So those are generally the two ways that you're going to get around lock-ons. But with my strategy, what I'm doing is I'm going against the current meta. My lock-ons chase you. I can follow you with my lock-on launcher. And enemy ESFs don't have a way to deal with that these days because fire suppression is so good. So I'm playing the counter to that. And I'm hoping it works out. It worked out really well against that one mosquito. It couldn't do anything. Let's see what this one can do. That's one hit. That's two. Got one on my tail. That'll finish that one off. Alright, now I might be forced to dogfight here. But there's a Reaver on that mosquito. Now I'll pop my fire suppression, and I'll slow down right here. Dang. Okay, so that was a little bit of failed fancy maneuvering on my part. I will admit that it's been quite a while since I flew any variety, you know, a Reaver or a Liberator in PlanetSide 2. But for the most part, this strategy does seem to work. The problem there was that I overextended. I did have some support, but that was a good mosquito pilot who was on me. So that's just going to happen. If you overextend and there's someone, and there's an enemy that can capitalize on that, no matter what your strategy is, you're just going down. So I shouldn't overextend. So that may be one of the problems that I have with this particular strategy, is that it takes 3 rockets to take down, or it takes 3 missiles to take out an enemy ESF. Maybe if I am going anti-air, I should switch over to the Vortec. It is the anti-air cannon, after all. So I'll do that. That way I can fill the time while the air-to-air missile pods are reloading with Vortec rounds. Kind of speed up my time to kill. This is all just experimentation. Up we go. This time we shall not overextend. You see what I did there? I lost my Reaver. I was experimenting, you know, with a new strategy or whatever, trying to figure things out. But anyway, in combat, I went out and I lost my Reaver. And then I looked back on that flight. I looked back on what happened. And I identified the problem, and now I'm going to play to try and minimize the situation that just happened there, or the occurrence of that situation. In this case, the situation was that I overextended. Now I'm going to try and correct that. That's important. That's very important in gaming in general. Competitive gaming especially. Being able to identify your mistakes and then act on that. Here comes the lock. He somehow avoided it. Alright, I had to concentrate there. What happened in that fight? I don't know. My missile should have hit that enemy mosquito, and either taken it out or set it on fire. That didn't happen. It somehow avoided the missile. I'll have to go back and watch the footage to see exactly what happened. I know you can do some fancy maneuvering midair, which gives you a slight chance of avoiding missiles, even when they're locked on, and I think that's what happened. I think that slight chance kind of played out well for him, and it just happened to work out in that Mosquito's favor. But what also happened there, as far as my play is concerned... Oh, someone's repairing me. What also happened there, as far as my play is concerned, is I got a little bit of tunnel vision. I wanted that Mosquito dead, so I started focusing on it with my lock-ons, and I started focusing on it with my rotary cannon. And I nearly let enemy anti-air, I believe it was a lightning down there, a Skyguard, I nearly let that take me down. I was able to keep a cool head, and I realized before it was too late that I should scram. I should kick on the scram jets and just get out of there. So I got out of there with some evasive maneuvering, with quick decision making, and popping my flares at the right, popping my fire suppression at the right time to sustain my Reaver's hit points. But I recognized what was wrong there. I got a little bit of tunnel vision, and I see some players sometimes when I'm flying up here get tunnel vision, which causes them to overextend. And if they're not overextending, they tend to take enemy fire. They value the kill more than they value their own Reaver, generally, or their own ESF, whoever it is. Okay, so that worked well. Again, most ESFs are running that fire suppression, and they can't break these locks, and it's just a death sentence for them. Now you might be wondering, well, if everyone's running fire suppression, and you're countering fire suppression, and you know that anti-air missiles, the old ones, the original ones, are a death sentence, why are you still using fire suppression? Why are you using the very weakness you are exploiting? Well, it's because fire suppression is also a great strength. It's a very good setup. Fire suppression is a very good add-on, a very good extension. I don't know what to call it. Mod or cert. It's a very good cert for your Reaver, or for your ESF. So that's why I'm using it. I'm using its strengths. And because no one else is running these air-to-air missiles, they're running Hounds for anti-air, I don't have to worry about the weaknesses of fire suppression, whereas enemies do. Alright, I hear an enemy Mosquito. Actually, there's a lib. That's a shredder. I gotta get out of here. Libs are so tough these days. And again, they should be. They are gunships. They are manned by 3 people. They shouldn't be very easy to take out with a single ESF. Which is why I'm glad a lot of the changes that have occurred have occurred. Shredders are very deadly these days. They're very fun to fly against. They are a great new addition. I say new. Liberators have been around forever in PlanetSide 2. I say they're a great new addition to the sky, but they really do feel like a new addition to the sky, to the dynamic of airplay. And really, whenever you're making changes to a game, whenever you're patching something, whenever you're rebalancing something, that's what you're going for, isn't it? You're trying to make sure things are fresh, they're new, you're trying to make sure things are viable. And these updates have done exactly that for Liberators. Alright, so let's keep trying this. So far, my findings are not entirely inconclusive. I'm going to say that this strategy works. This is not a strategy I've used often, so there are probably some subtle nuances and other things that I haven't really found out yet about this particular style of play, which is this medium to long range, lock-on, aerial harassment style. But I feel like maybe a single Reaver at this point could hold off or push back a small to medium-sized air force with these inescapable lock-ons. Even if you can't kill an enemy ESF... Hello. Oh, that's a friendly. Even if you can't kill an enemy ESF, you can keep it back. if there are aerial lock-ons around and they're not running flares, then that just makes it entirely unappealing for them to join the fight. Alright, so we've got this Liberator of ours up here. Currently unaccosted. Team player that I am, I think I'm just going to watch his back for a bit. Oh, he's smoking. Okay, maybe he's getting hit by flak or something. Here we go.
Identified Republic mosquito.
Coming in. Gonna come help this guy. Okay, I got a hit off on that mosquito. Got to dogfight typically. Nope. Oh, he's still turning around. Okay. Alright, I have to dogfight with him normally. I have no help. He has no help. But I've already got a hit off on him. And he seems like a fairly poor shot. Oh, and then he goes for the ram. Man, mosquitoes love to do that. Okay, so this is one of those subtle nuances I'm talking about. And remember how I said earlier, I like to look back, or it's a good idea to look back, and I also like to do this, look back and see what went wrong in that previous session or that previous run. Right there, I spent the first couple of passes, because we both passed each other, turned around, passed each other, turned around. I spent the first couple of passes still trying to use my lock-on, when I should have been firing at him with my rotary. I would have won that fight if I made those 2 passes doing that. I would have taken him out very soon, because my lock-on did hit him that first time around. When he passed by, when I passed by him the first time, I was barely able to get that lock-on missile off. So he was already low on hit points. So if I'd have just blazed him with my rotary after that, I would have won that fight, and I'd still be in the air. And that's one of the subtle nuances that I'm talking about with this particular style of play. I'm going to keep trying this. We are not getting enough resources to maintain Reaver loss at this rapid of a rate. So this particular video may be ending shortly. We'll see. Alright, let's sweep around long. Let's see if we can get a flanking position on the battle at large here. I'm just about at the flight ceiling. There's a smoking Reaver coming from this direction in which I am currently headed. Doesn't seem like a good idea to keep going in that direction. If you're looking to get a flank off, this is the angle from which you would want to approach. But there's a very thin line between getting a flanking position and overextending, so let's not overextend. I see no enemy air. Oh, yes I do.
Republic mosquito in the area.
And then we'll get the lock. Slow down. I'll slow down here. Oh, that one is running flares. How fun is that? There's another mosquito nearby. Alright, so that guy's flares are down. He knows that there's an aerial lock-on out here somewhere. That guy's got flares as well. But his flares are popped. He popped his flares before I even got the lock. Ow. Now I'm taking flak damage, apparently. But that's okay, because fire suppression was able to save me. It's important to time your fire suppression. It was appealing, it was tempting. There is pressure there to use your fire suppression, which heals you as soon as you start taking a lot of damage. But if you'll go back and watch, I kept my cool, I let them deal a lot of damage to me, and I waited until I was in the red. There was a certain point there where I was at just about half. And at that point, it's tempting to use your fire suppression to make sure that you've got hit points on your way out. But I also knew that the damage could probably continue very shortly, and even whenever I was ducking low and underneath the bridge,
Thanks.
This is this guy again repairing. I think it's the same guy. And even when I was ducking low and underneath the bridge, the canopy there, I was still taking damage, so it was a good idea for me to save my fire suppression until I was already on fire, because fire suppression, if you are on fire, gives you a quick burst heal, and then heals you slowly afterward. So you actually heal more if you're already on fire than you would if you use it when you're not on fire, because you don't get that quick initial burst if you're not in the red. So I was able to use that
Generator repaired.
to keep this particular Reaver. That's not something you want to always do. You have to judge it situation by situation. Now we want to stay away from there because apparently they've got some sort of anti-air. But it's situational. You want to judge it situation by situation to see whether or not you want to use your fire suppression early, or if you think you can sustain enough damage, and if you think that the damage is not going to be bursty enough to where you can use it at a more efficient moment. Oh, here comes a dogfight. What? See, why do mosquitoes do that all the time? Yeah, not sure how I could have handled that fight better, really. I probably still should have just kept blazing my rotary on him while I was getting that lock. The reason I decided to get that lock on once the other Reaver got that mosquito's attention is because I wanted to make sure and get some guaranteed burst damage and put more pressure on that mosquito, and a lock-on is a great way to do that. It causes the enemy to panic if they don't have flares. It does all kinds of good things. Just the very act of locking onto somebody changes the situation. Better pilots will, of course, be able to circumvent some of that. But most of the time, a lot of the time, it'll force them to change their play. It'll force them to try and run away, or however they want to handle a situation. So there's a lot that just the act of locking onto something accomplishes. But really, I probably could have taken out that mosquito if I'd just kept the rotary on there. What I think I need is to improve the lock-on range. Yeah. What I think I need is just to improve the lock-on range of these air-to-air missiles, and I think that'll help. I do have 2,000 certification points. I'm kind of saving those. Whoa.
Identified Republic mosquito.
Getting out. I got my lock-on missile off. I got my lock-on missile off. I started to take some flak damage. Decided to get out of there. There we go. Got a kill assist. Now we've got some galaxies heading out. I wonder if they are full or if they're battle galaxies. Let's get a look-see. One's got 4 of 12. So battle galaxy-ish. There's another galaxy right here. How many you got? 2 of 12. Another battle gal. 9 of 12. 6 of 12. Oh! I rammed one. I think that was my fault. I don't know. 4 of 12. I'm gonna head out with these galaxies and see where they're going.
Generator stabilized.
I don't think they necessarily need any kind of escort because they've got a lot of guns here. I'm gonna keep my distance. Those things are huge. And when it comes to server latency, the server can sometimes think that you're closer than you actually appear. The server knows you're closer than you actually appear, so sometimes you'll take damage when you're next to an aircraft that seems to be very far away, or, you know, too far away to deal damage. So you gotta imagine the galaxies are about twice as big as you actually see them, and give them about that much room when you're flying around them. But it looks like they're preparing to drop on a specific location, so I'm gonna head out in that location. And I'm taking damage from this one guy who's firing his gun on me. He stopped, so I guess he was doing that thing where you try and fire as close to a friendly as possible without hitting them. So once he actually hit me and got the whole blink, don't hit friendlies thing, he stopped. Alright, so I'm an anti-air spec. I should keep an eye on the sky. Out here, I can expect to see sides, not mosquitoes, because that is the Vanu warp gate. What is going on here? Speaking of sides...
Side in the area.
There's the lock-on hit. Going for another one. No problem. For a long time, the Scythe was considered the best ESF. I don't think Scythes are the best ESF. I have a much more difficult time. What is going on here? Oh, that's theirs. I have a much more difficult time fighting mosquitoes. There's a Scythe out here somewhere. There he is.
Eyes on the BS side.
I'll get the lock while this happens. This strategy is pretty nice. If you're an ESF pilot and you haven't tried this yet, I would recommend giving it a shot. I'm hesitant to say it's the best way to go right now for anti-air. It's a specific style. You've got to know what you're doing when you get into it. I think generally for anti-air, maybe going Hounds may still be the best way. I don't know. It depends on how you want to play. If you can adapt and play multiple styles, then go ahead and try this. Or maybe if you're finding that the up-close and personal style of the Hounds and dogfighting in its current state is to be a little bit too hectic or fast-paced, or maybe you feel like it's too whoever saw the other first. I think that's a good way to describe current dogfighting in the air. An apt way to perhaps describe it. I don't know. It's hard to say for sure. But it does seem that whatever ESF with Hounds sees the other ESF with Hounds first. It does seem that whoever sees the other first is going to win whenever it comes to a Hound versus Hound fight. Alright, let's go high. I don't want to be low. I don't want to take hits from things like harassers or a lucky tank blast. Or something stupid like a stock lightning. Look what I found.
Eyes on the BS side.
This lock is taking forever. I might overextend a little bit here. Well, I'm already overextended, so why not, right?
Side in the air.
I gotta lose this Liberator who's on me. And who's dealing a ton of damage already. It looks like I'm gonna go underneath this, but I'm gonna choose not to. I wanted to give their Dalton gunner something to think about. Woohoo! Now, afterburn straight away. I think that afterburn happened at just the right point. Another thing that you might notice with this particular style of play, he's still on me, and what I'm doing, is that whenever I get into trouble in the air, usually, man, he's still firing on me. Usually, whenever I get into trouble in the air, I'll point my reaver toward my warp gate. Doesn't matter how far away I am from the warp gate. No matter where I am on the continent, I know where I am in relation to my warp gate. So if I get into trouble, I'll point myself in that direction. And then if I have to make a long, drawn-out escape, at least I know that I'm flying toward guaranteed safety. You don't want to point yourself in some random direction and end up flying toward an enemy base or a certain part of the continent where there's already a opposing faction versus opposing faction battle, because you don't want to fly through that either. You want to fly toward guaranteed safety, and toward your warp gate is always the best choice, because even before you get to the warp gate, you're going to be flying over friendly territory anyway. So that's one thing that I do whenever I try and escape. Another thing that you might want to notice about this particular session, and how well these anti-air missiles are doing. This guy's still repairing. That's cool.
Thank you much.
Another thing you might want to notice is that I'm always approaching from above the enemy ESFs, or I tend to. It's because I tend to fly high, and then I swoop down on targets, so the enemy doesn't really know where the lock-on is coming from. Most enemy ESFs are flying at about the mid-range, and they're looking down at the ground. Or they've got their noses pointed down, and they're looking at the mid-range where they're on, the level they're on in the sky, for other ESFs. If you're up above, you drastically reduce the chance that you're going to be hit by enemy flak, because you're really high up, and you also reduce the chance that enemy ESFs are going to see you, because a lot of ESFs are focused on the ground or at the mid-range where there are other ESFs. So that's a good tactic to use, especially whenever you're trying to get the drop on the opponent and you need those few seconds to get a lock. It's a great way to confuse the target. Anyway, we're headed back out there. See how many resources we have now. We're at 112. Well, we're getting 112. We're at 431 right now. Alright, I hear a Liberator. I think it's ours. Fairly certain it's ours. Yeah, it's ours. It's a Reaver pulling some fancy maneuvers out here. Normally, whenever I see a friendly ESF, whenever I see a Reaver, like, off in the distance doing stuff like this, I tend to want to prepare. Okay, I hear hounds. There he is. So this is that typical fire suppression hound target that I'm talking about. These are the guys I'm after. Forgot what I was saying before that. Oh yeah, usually whenever I see a friendly ESF, and let's get high again. Let's go straight. Let's get high. I realize how that sounds. Not what I meant. Anyway. Doing evasive maneuvering, whenever I see a friendly doing evasive maneuvering off in the distance, I know to be ready to see if an enemy ESF spawn or render shortly afterward, if I'm headed that way. So I prepare myself, even before I see the enemy, for there to be an enemy there, and therefore I'm already in the correct state to begin an air versus air battle, or to provide whatever kind of support that I can to the friendly. Alright, so there is an enemy Dalton, or an enemy Liberator. I'm not going to start firing on it yet. I'm going to head high up. I'm going to head to the flight ceiling. I'm going to afterburn to the flight ceiling, actually. There we go.
Enemy gunship in the area.
Now I can fire on it from here, and I should. Okay, that pilot just gave that up. I think he was just using it as a means to get here. Now, I am also in the mid-range right now. This is not where I want to be. I want to be higher up. I want you to look at this gauge right here. See that? 1,000 is the flight ceiling, for those of you who don't know. That's what I'm headed toward every time. And the game will automatically level you out whenever you reach the flight ceiling. So it's not like you can go above it or anything. But that's what I'm looking for, so I can tell whereabouts I am. I want to be as high up as possible. See, this guy over here, he knows what he's doing. He's flying at the flight ceiling as well, and approaching the enemy warp gate. And then he dive bombs an enemy lib. Oh, there's a scythe on me. Oh no. He's on the other guy. Lots of enemy flak, and I'm the target, so I'm getting out. I learned my lesson earlier not to rely too much on the air-to-air missiles in close range like that, so I made sure to use the rotary both times against both those sides. I had to back off of the first one because the enemy flak, and I value having my own Reaver in the air more than I value taking out an enemy ESF. I feel like I can do more good if I keep my Reaver than bad that I can prevent if I take on one ESF, if you get what I'm saying there. I can continue to help my side with a Reaver. I can't if I don't have it. In other words. Auto repair has kicked in. Sounds like a walker on the back of that galaxy down there. Notice what I'm doing. There's a fight going on over there. That galaxy seems to have it handled. There's a couple of galaxies. There's another Reaver looking down at the ground. And look where I'm staying. Look at the map. How the fight is down below to the south, maybe southwest, kinda. And I'm flying around up high in this area between them and the warp gate. This is going to put me in a position to intercept those lone gunman sides who are coming in to try and join the fight, or maybe even get the drop on a Liberator who might actually stand a chance of turning the tide of that battle. This is going to help me do that kind of stuff. Sure, doing this kind of play doesn't necessarily get me the highest amount of experience, and maybe it's not the most action-packed, but it does end up helping the NC win their battles. And those NC don't even know they have someone watching their back. It's alright, they don't need to. Occasionally I do look down to see if there's any enemy ESFs in the low to mid-range who are trying to target friendlies. Ooh, how did that thing go down? What took out that friendly? Must be a ground like rocket launcher or something. Oh, alright. Enemy target up in the air, just noticed it on the minimap, heard the engines. Where'd you go, buddy? Okay, so it's turning to fight me, actually. So now I have his attention. There's a Sunderer directly beneath it, if you'll notice, on the minimap. But I have its attention. I am a much more difficult target to hit. That Sunderer is stationary and vulnerable. But as long as this Liberator is focused on me, that Sunderer is safe. The Liberator decides to back off of me and learns that's a mistake. The Liberator now has to focus on me. I still have my fire suppression. I can still make evasive maneuvers. This is very good. I fly further away than they want to fly, because if they fly too far, then they'll overextend. But if they back off of me again, like they're doing right now, see, they're trying to adjust so they can take out other things. I'll come back and make this play. Time to pop fire suppression because I'm taking some flak. I got a service ribbon for healing. Fire suppression does count as that. Alright, so now I'm taking flak damage and I don't have fire suppression. I am being targeted by enemy anti-air. I am in a bad position because I'm vulnerable to enemy air as well if they spot me. So I'm going to start heading in a direction away from the flak and away from the enemy gunship, and at first opportunity, once I feel that there's a safe path, I'm going to begin turning myself toward the warp gate. Fire suppression is still waiting, we can see down there, and I'm at half hit points, so I'm going to try and give my Reaver some time to recover. And by recover, I mean I'm going to let the auto repair kick in, and I'm going to let fire suppression cool down before I go back in. Fire suppression is ready. Repair has kicked in. I'm at a good amount of hit points, and now I can go rejoin the fight. I have 4 total air-to-air missile pods. I am just about at the flight ceiling, but this part of the continent has a high natural elevation, so even though I am at the flight ceiling, I can still be rendered on the screens of enemy anti-air, which means I can still be targeted. However, it's still a good idea to remain pretty close to the flight ceiling because you're still more difficult to hit the higher up you are, even if you can still be rendered by the enemy. So over here on this side, where there's a high natural elevation, you can see that there's high ground here, and then it dips down to this, what appears to be formerly an ocean that is now dried up. That's got low elevation over there. Out here, if you're at the flight ceiling, then on the ground, enemy flak won't be able to render you, which makes you that much more powerful. But in the higher elevation places, and pretty much everywhere on Amarish, the flight ceiling is not going to protect you in that situation, because Amarish, the entire continent, has a high natural elevation. So here is that Sunderer.
Stabilized.
That Sunderer is still alive on the minimap there. Ow. There's that flak. I think I heard a mosquito. Yep, there's a mosquito on me. And the crown is filled with enemy anti-air. I'm going to be forced into a dogfight here, I think. But before I get into a dogfight, I'm going to pop my afterburners and get as close to friendly territory as I can. So he's still blazing away. That gun of his. And now he's overextended, so I'll turn around. He's turned around. He also has turned around. But he's got a friendly Reaver on him now. I'll go back up that Reaver. I'm also noticing on the minimap that the main battle is off to the right. I see a large concentration of ground forces, friendly ground forces off to the right on the map. Alright, so now this guy who saved me has that mosquito on him. Ooh, it's an EXE mosquito as well. Let's go get a lock. Oh, he's down. See, that worked out perfectly. That whole bit worked out perfectly. Now I am low. That lightning is smoking. But I am not free to finish him off. Alright, I've got to head back up high. It's not like I have breakers and the Mustang or anything, so I am in a not ideal position right now. However, it's not the worst position either, because I was behind friendlies when I was low in the sky, or low in the air. Alright, so there's an escaping prowler. I can continue to harass it. Now that tank driver knew what he was doing. He was being attacked from behind. The first thing he did was swivel his tank around, quite skillfully I might add, and put the front armor toward the threat. That's what you want to do as a tank pilot, or as a tank driver. Front armor is strongest on tanks. And my Vortec Rotary would have had a chance of taking down his main battle tank if I was able to continue to get shots in the rear armor, but because he had the front facing me, he saved his tank. I took a little bit of a risk. Oh, I've got like no ammo. I took a little bit of a risk there. There was an enemy Skyguard, and I thought I heard a mosquito nearby while I was laying fire down on that tank to try and get that maybe lucky kill. A little bit of a risk. Not a lot of potential for reward. Not necessarily the best move I could have made. But sometimes you gotta do stuff like that just because it's fun. And it's been more than 5 minutes. I've got 750 air resources again. So there's that. Come on, Rotary. I'm trying to get up to 417 ammo here. Ammo count in this direction. There we go. New mission, defend Gravel Pass. Alright, let's go have a look at Gravel Pass. We'll stay low this time. Let's go see how it's going out there.
Hostile lightning tank spotted.
What kind of lightning is that? Ow, 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 ow. Okay, 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 okay. I get it, I get it. I think I heard a mosquito here. Let's get back up to the flight ceiling. There we go. And now back out into the main battle. One thing I do like to do whenever I see, sometimes, not all the time, whenever I see a friendly flying alone, I'll tail them. Like that Reaver down there. Sometimes I'll tail them. Try and help them complete whatever their objective is. Give them some backup. Smoking Galaxy. We've got enemy Sunday right there. That harasser was the more appropriate target for my rotary, so I decided to target that. There's that whole saving the fire suppression for the right moment thing. And yes, that was intentional. But only slightly. There was a matter of milliseconds between the point where I was like, should I fire suppress? And yes. So, I don't know. Also notice what I did there against that enemy Sunderer. We had some Reavers who were shooting at it with rotaries, and you know, the light cannons that you have that are available for Reavers. Nobody was using an air hammer on it or anything, so it's not like any of the Reavers were doing any significant portion of damage. So you fire on a Sunderer, and those things are heavily armored. The cannons that Reavers have, or that any ESF have, are going to have a difficult time damaging and taking out a Sunderer, even whenever you've got multiple ESFs. So what I did was I popped over to my Vortec rotary, and then I turned on my, what is this? Whatever you want to call this vision. What is that actually called here? I forget. I triggered my thermal optics so that I can see... There's that guy again.
Thanks.
I turned on my thermal optics so that I could see whoever was repairing the Sunderer, because they're often standing still. And I got a kill off of that guy. That does more damage to the Sunderer than firing on the Sunderer does. You kill the guy who's repairing it, and all the damage after that is made much more significant because that damage is not being repaired by that guy anymore. So I decided... So actually, there was a lot of target prioritization, or a lot of target prioritizing in that last little skirmish there. Instead of firing on the Sunderer the first time because I knew my Vortec cannon wasn't going to do a good job against it, I targeted the harasser. Whenever I came around again, instead of targeting the Sunderer directly, I went for those who were repairing it. There's a lot of that whenever you're flying in an ESF. Or whenever you're doing planet site in general. Prioritizing targets is very important. So we've got this Liberator firing on something in the air, but I didn't see what the target was. It's a very dangerous fight to be in ESF. Okay, so I hear hounds being fired. Ouch! No! 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 Clipped by a friendly! Clipped by a friendly! Dang! Oh, man. Stonewalled Janet. I don't know what to make of that, man. Well, so there was that run. Oops. I'm getting a chat message from this person. Sorry, typing. It's alright. Need to, Yeah, I was at some point waiting for the Vanu or the TR to actually take me down so that I could end this video or end this session so that I could actually get to editing and rendering it so I can get something out tonight, which is Friday. So, yeah, that's pretty good. I think that'll do it for this session. At least I can say that I wasn't taken down by the TR or VS this session to end it. Instead, the NC did what the NC does. Not long ago, Matt Higbee, who works for SOE, put out a chart showing which factions team kill the most. So which, like, TR killing TR, VS killing VS, or NC killing NC, either accidentally or whatever. You know, Sony has all those stats. And he put out a chart showing that. And NC win that one. NC are the best at killing their own teammates. And it's because of stuff like that. If I can find it, it's on Twitter. If I can find that link, I'll put a link to that in the video description. If I don't put it in the video description, it means I didn't necessarily find that link, And if somebody else knows where to find it, post it in the comments. That'd be great. In any case, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun recording it. I haven't really been feeling PlanetSide too much lately, but this session, I don't know, it gave me a little bit more of a jolt to play some more PlanetSide 2 again. That was a lot of fun. I want to try out this strategy a little bit more, kind of work out the kinks in it and fine-tune it, and see how well it'll do in the future and under different circumstances as well. I was able to fly around multiple different battles and try it out in multiple different situations. We were basically all in this entire area, as far as Alatum even. And even out here. So we basically covered this much of the continent in battles in this video. And we got to see this strategy in action in multiple different situations and scenarios, whether there was a lot of air or not, whether I had to go against ground or even kick up some dogfights and such. So I think I'll get back into this at some point, maybe even if I'm just doing it on my own, to try and perfect the strategy and see how that goes. In any case, once again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.